NFL weekend where the weather's going to be dropping. The weather's not going to be very good this weekend. And here come the Miami Dolphins up from Miami to take on the Ravens with a 6-game winning streak. Lots of strange doings around the NFL as we get up on the final month of the season. Chris Burke chronicles all things NFL at Sports Illustrated. You can follow his journey out at SI.com as well as at Chris Burke _SI from the fighting state of Michigan, where they have a chance this year with the Detroit Lions. We welcome Chris Burke back in. Any excitement going on up there in Michigan for the Lions?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think people are really excited. It's just these opportunities haven't come around too often for that franchise. So I think especially now after, I think they were excited going into Thursday and then beating Minnesota. You got the sweep of Minnesota in their back pocket. The Packers don't look very good. So they really should win the division. And if anything's tempering the excitement from the fans is knowing that things haven't always worked out for the Lions when they should take control and take care of things. But, yeah, I mean, I think they're excited. The NFC's got a bunch of teams kind of jumbled in the middle, and the Lions deserve to be right there where they are, I think.
That was a hell of a turkey Bradford threw at him on Thursday afternoon, right?
Yeah, I mean, that trade that the Vikings made looks worse by the week. But, yeah, it was a nice gift and a good win. I mean, like I said, that was one you should win at home on Thanksgiving, and it hasn't always worked out that way for the Lions, so I'm sure they will take it any way it comes.
Well, it's funny with the fandom, right? We're in Baltimore. This is the first year in the 21 years where I've seen sort of a retraction of the fans. You know what I mean? Like, there have been thousands of empty seats in our stadium. Tickets were $20 on StubHub. I don't have a real answer for it other than sort of maybe fatigue from being good. But there are lots of other places where good is all relative, in places like Atlanta and Tampa where there's some revival. Detroit's got some revival going on right now. Even in Houston and in Tennessee where the Titans haven't been very good, there's now some energy, as well as Oakland and Kansas City. So, there's a lot of places here in the last month that are getting either their first taste of or an all too rare taste of a chance to be a playoff team this year.
Yeah, I think it is fun, and that's the NFL. That's why there's 2 wild cards and why the NFL schedules the way it does. It wants this to happen. It wants to have a bunch of teams. It's built for you to kind of turn over if you have a bad year and come back the next year and be all right, and it hasn't worked out that way for a lot of franchises. But, yeah, I mean, I think some of those teams you mentioned, certainly, like I said, they're excited in Detroit. Tampa Bay looked pretty jacked up yesterday. I think Washington fans are getting excited again, even though they lost this past week. Miami, like you said. And, I mean, I think it'll be a fun final month. It's really hard, other than the Cowboys kind of separating and the AFC West looking pretty strong. I mean, it's been hard to really figure out where the strengths of this league are. So I think it is still at this point it's pretty wide open who's going to get into the playoffs.
Chris, one of the things with the Ravens this year at 6-5 is that they haven't been impressive. They haven't bowled anyone over. They've had a lot of injuries and guys coming back. And I don't know that anybody here is buying into they can win the Super Bowl, right? But I'll say this, in a year where the first time in a long time 9 wins might win this division, 10 would certainly win the division. But it's the Ravens and the Steelers. The Bengals have fallen off. The Browns are a disgrace. And there's something that feels almost dirty about winning a division at 8-8 or 9-7 around here. Although the Ravens have not won a lot of divisions. The Ravens are a perennial road January playoff team because they never seem to win the division. It would seem a little odd that in a year that they could win it with 9.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that at least in terms of the perception, they're going to have to earn it. This isn't going to be, I mean, the Pittsburgh schedule still go to Buffalo, and obviously they play the Ravens again, but you're closing with Cleveland and going to Cincinnati, which doesn't, both teams go to Cincinnati. I mean, I think they're going to have to earn it. These next 4 weeks, Miami, New England, Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, with 2 of those games on the road, I think we'll find out whether they're, that 6-win team right now or that 5-loss team, which way they're really trending, because that's a tough stretch. And yeah, but I mean, like I said, the parity of this league right now, unless you can run, there aren't a lot of teams that are stacking up 13, 14 wins right now. So 9, 10, that's definitely a respectable number. And we've seen the closer the Ravens get to the playoffs, the more and more we're going to talk about how good the Ravens tend to be in the playoffs and how good Joe Flacco tends to be in the playoffs. They're one of those teams that we've seen them do it. You just get in and you worry about everything else later because they know they can win there.
I've already told my wife I want a Joe Flacco elite shirt for Christmas, so hopefully Santa will bring that for me. It could be a lot worse at 6-5. You could be the Houston Texans, right? I mean, I don't know that anybody really believes, certainly the loss of Watt and where they are with the quarterback situation. They're the worst 6-5 team. There's no doubt about that.
I mean, I think you can. It's not a very good division. I think they're probably right now the third best team in that division. I think the Colts are better with the way they've been playing offensively, even though they lost without Luck on Thursday. I think that they're coming on. If Luck's healthy, they'll be tough to keep out of that top spot. I think Tennessee's been better really since they lost to Houston in Week 4. I think they've been the better of those two teams. So Texans are just trying to hang on. It's sort of this. It's not totally dissimilar from what they did last year. It's just hope you can hang on. You get the home game. Maybe you see what happens. That's not a team that's going to scare anyone, especially when you look at the wild cards that are going to come out of the AFC. You're talking about right now the Chiefs and the Dolphins and the Steelers are there. The Broncos are there. I mean, none of those teams are going to be underdogs going into Houston in the playoffs.
Always love talking football with Chris Burke from Sports Illustrated. You can follow his journey out at SI.com under the author page, as well as out on Twitter at Chris Burke. And he does have a silent E_SI out on Twitter. And tens of thousands do follow his journey. And, Denver, tough loss the other night, right? I mean, in so many chances to win that game. And Simeon looks so good down the line. And then they get to overtime. And then it starts to drag on a little bit. Huge win, conversely, for the Chiefs.
Yeah, I mean, I think you mentioned one of the big reasons it hurts for Denver because we haven't really seen Trevor Simeon play like that. He's had some nice games, but that was his best game of the season against a really good defense. And we saw early on when Justin Houston got going that pass rush can really cause problems. So when Kansas City went up 9-0, you kind of almost felt like that was going to be enough, and it ends up 30-27. And Simeon had them up 27-19 late. You expect that Denver defense to put it away at that point. And so between wasting the Simeon start, the defense, the defense giving up the late touchdown, 2-point conversion, 2 scores in overtime, and then obviously the decision to kick the field goal. Yeah, that one hurts. And now it knocks Denver out of the top 6. So a lot of reasons that one will sting. But like you said, Kansas City's a real tough team, and
nothing
Alex
sexy
Smith
about them, though, right? I mean, no one's going to fall in love with the Chiefs, right?
Right. I mean, Alex Smith has his limitations, and you saw him on display for most of the night, and they've struggled against the run this season. They're not running the ball particularly well, but they're pretty well-rounded, and they know how to win these close games. They've been really good the last, season and a half. And you see, they won at Oakland now. They won at Indianapolis. They now won at Denver, so they can get it done away from home. That's a team, when you're talking about teams that can come out of the AFC, even if they don't win the division, that's certainly one to circle and remember.
Well, for all the crap that Alex Smith gets after being the number 1 pick, to see him go the length of the field in Denver and then convert a 2 on top of it to drive that game into overtime that they eventually win. When Kenny Rogers says, no one to hold him and fold him when the dealing's done, come Christmas time and New Year's, we're going to look back on that Monday night. I mean, the Broncos had that one kind of sewn up and it got away.
Yeah, and like I said, now you're talking about should Denver have just played for the tie and hung on to that 6th spot, but it really was a remarkable, I don't know, I think Alex Smith, he had that drive for the 49ers in the playoffs to win a game against New Orleans a couple years ago, but this one's probably right up there with, his top 2 drives of all time. Late against that defense on the road and down 8, no less, not just needing the touchdown on the 2. That was a really good drive. He had the great play on 4th and 10 down in the red zone where he saw the blitz coming and threw back towards it to get a guy open for the first down. I mean, it was really impressive, and it's another one of those drives where you kind of look at and you wonder, well, why does this only happen 5% of the time? But it's like I said, obviously an important win for them.
Chris, you buying what the Cowboys are selling at this point? I mean, I know you're up there in Michigan, and there is excitement for the Lions. I would think one of the reasons there's not as much excitement is the perception that the Seahawks and the Cowboys are better. Look, the Seahawks have had their own problems, right? I mean, especially moving the football and scoring points, as we saw on Sunday. But the Cowboys look, to my eyes, to be very, very legitimate, even going back to the first dose of Aikman and Irvin and Emmitt Smith, where that offensive line was such a big part of it 25 years ago. And here we go again, where we're going to talk about that offensive line until we don't talk about it anymore, and they're scoring points because of them.
Yeah, I mean, I think you got to buy any team that runs off 10 in a row, but like you said, it's been impressive. And to watch that offensive line, I think Dak Prescott's obviously playing better now than he was 5-6 weeks ago, which you would expect in most cases from a rookie. Baltimore's got one of the teams that can sort of stand up against a good run team, but there aren't a lot of teams in the league capable of doing that. Teams just aren't built to win between the tackles as much as they used to be. So when you have a line like Dallas is just come in and just pummel people week in and week out, and you can sort of understand why that works schematically. I think it's similar to what we've seen a little bit in Oakland, and they're not as much of a power run team, but we've seen them do that. That's how they beat Denver. They just sort of ran it right down their throats and won the physical game. And so when you talk about a team like Seattle, that's obviously the big concern for them. When teams have kind of punched back a little bit, like we saw Tampa Bay do, like we saw Arizona do, the Rams, I mean, they're not very good up front, and that's a little bit of a concern, and even more so given how we saw Carolina lose in the playoffs last year. You know, teams that can get after the quarterback and can win in the trenches are just so tough this time of year and in January. So, I mean, I think Dallas is, for as good as they've been in the regular season, Dallas is built to win in the playoffs with the type of style they play.
Boy, Giants are sneaky good at 8-3. We lost to them 5-6 weeks ago, and we're all hanging our head thinking they were a bad team. We also lost to the Jets, and they are a bad team. But the Giants aren't a bad team right now, specifically defensively. They're still trying to figure out it offensively, but Eli's probably not going to hurt them down the stretch, and that's a good thing to have going for you.
Yeah, it's a little strange to see them not be better. I mean, they have scored 21 points or more their last four, but with the way that offense is built, you'd think they'd be a little more explosive. Obviously, they haven't been able to run. They haven't been able to block very well up front, so that holds you back every time. But, yeah, I mean, they are good. I think to some extent, though, even you said they're 8-3. They've won 6 in a row. I think they're trying to answer some of the same questions you brought up about Baltimore. I think there are some people wondering really if they are that good. I mean, they beat Cleveland, Chicago, Cincinnati their last 3, and the Rams, and caught the Ravens at home and snuck past them. They haven't had a lot of convincing wins. Even that win over Cleveland was close into the fourth quarter till that Jason Pierre-Paul touchdown. So, they're a team that just kind of is doing what's necessary to get the wins right now. It's obviously worked out well for them record-wise, but again, they're closing with 5 really good teams, 5 teams that, at least 3 of them are probably going to be in the playoffs, maybe all 5. So we'll see. I don't know if they don't look like a 13-3 team to me, but I guess the question is, are they a 10-6 team? Are they good enough to avoid totally falling apart if it gets a little tough here?
Chris Burke covers all things NFL at Sports Illustrated. You can follow his journey at @ChrisBurke_SI. Chris, we get together every couple of months, maybe 3-4 times a year. I try to get you on. And if I would have had you on in August and said, right after Thanksgiving, the Cardinals, the Packers, and the Panthers, all of their seasons would be sunk. And throw the Bengals in there as well, although maybe some of us saw the Bengals happening a little bit more. But certainly out in the West, that tilt of power from last year to this year has been dramatic, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think all those teams, I think there were some signs that Cincinnati might struggle. I think it's been surprising to see them struggle to this degree because they've been so consistent the last 5 seasons and seem to have such a strong foundation there that they've rolled over positions on their roster before and not really taken a step back. It kind of caught up to them this year, and then you add in some injuries, and it's sort of all headed towards a total rebuild, a restart here. But the rest of those teams, I think, all are surprising. I mean, I don't think anyone expected Carolina to win 14, 15 games again. that's been a big drop-off. Arizona is really the one to me that's been the huge surprise, and I think a lot of it is because just Carson Palmer, he had that injury to his finger late last year, was really bad in their playoff loss. I think everyone kind of expects him to come back and pick up where he left off. They still had a bunch of decent pieces on their offensive line. David Johnson's one of the best backs in football. Larry Fitzgerald. I mean, it seemed like he would be able to rebound, and he really has not been very good at all this year. And now their defense is struggling too, and that's the one that really surprises me. I thought Carolina would win their division. I thought Green Bay was probably the best team on paper in the North headed into the season, but I really thought the Cardinals were a team that could come out of the NFC and win the Super Bowl, and obviously that's probably not going to happen at this point.
Well, we all know the real king of Michigan is Jim Harbaugh. At least, if he would have gotten 6 more inches on that play. The histrionics aside and the post-game ramblings and all that, and the fact that I know Jim, and obviously I'm around his brother plenty around here, what Michigan has done out there and what he's done to put them on the map has certainly made for relevant conversation in football, if not a happy ending for everybody in Michigan against Ohio State.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie and tell you I'm totally over the loss to Ohio State yet. That one's going to sting for a little while because I think it
speaks to who you are, Chris. You know what I mean? It speaks to who any football fan in your position. Look, man, I got a lot of broken hearts up on the Big Blue side of that rivalry. And, I have no love lost for Ohio State, but, I don't really like either one of them. So, but it was a hell of a football game. It really was, right?
Yeah, the ones that hurt the most, I think, are the ones where your team looks like the better team for most of the game and still loses, and that's kind of how it played out. But, yeah, that's the other part of it is what you mentioned. 2 years ago, certainly the outlook wasn't quite as exciting around Ann Arbor with Brady Hoke still there. So he's done a great job, and I think, I'm biased towards that rivalry and towards what it means to the Big Ten and in the grand scheme of things. I certainly think college football in general is more exciting when that rivalry is good, and I think we saw that this past weekend. So hopefully, obviously Urban Meyer's got it pretty well stocked to continue going that way. Hopefully this isn't just a 1 year, kind of uptick for Michigan. I don't think it is, but yeah, that one hurt a little bit.
Dude, from the Maryland perspective, if we ever have to see Michigan and Ohio State again back-to-back, it should be at like volleyball or some other sport. It should not be at playing football against those two universities in back-to-back weeks. Certainly made for some hard feelings around here, but hey, we're going to Detroit for a bowl game. Everything's great, right?
Hey, yeah, it's 35 and pouring rain here right now, so we'll make sure to save some for you.
Let us know how it's going to be on December 26th around 2 o'clock as well. So,
I'm
Chris,
sure it'll be beautiful.
Always a pleasure to check in with you, man. I hope to see you in Houston at the Super Bowl and at the Combine later on in the year as well. A pleasure, man. Thanks for the time.
Sure thing. Yeah, thanks for having me again.
You got it. Chris Burke at SportsIllustratedSI.com. You can find him at @ChrisBurke_SI out on Twitter as well. You can find me in the Bayou Toyota Audio Vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world. Wednesday night, Christopher Daniel, Zach Orr, as well as Anthony Levine. And, of course, Thursday night, Dennis Pitta out at Greenmount Station in Hampstead will be swabbing for the Bone Marrow Registry. Stop out. See us. We'll have more hijinks next week and the week after that and the week after that. Celebrating 25 years in Baltimore radio on December 13th. I'm trying to have some fun around here. Anything you miss, you can find in the Bayou Toyota Audio Vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world on your mobile device. Just download the TuneIn Radio app. We come in crystal clear from anywhere in the world. The morning newspaper ships to your email inbox via planetfitness.com. It's still $10 a month to get in the best shape of your life. Work off that eggnog and the turkey and the pumpkin pie and the apple pie and the cranberry pie and the mincemeat pie and the pecan pie. Been a lot of pie going on around here the last week or so. I got to be honest with you. Send cake for Christmas. Last but never least, any breaking news happens first on the WNST Tech Service. That is brought to you by Coons Ford of Security Boulevard. Dennis will be here on Thursday, driving you home from 3 until 5, getting you ready for Thursday night football. Pretty good game this Thursday as well. Pretty good game on Sunday when the Finns come north to take on the Ravens. 6 wins in a row for the Dolphins. And, of course, the Ravens coming off a big win over the Bengals on Sunday. I'm Nestor. This is WNST.net, AM 1570 and WNST Towson, Baltimore. And we never stop talking Baltimore sports.